Hi, welcome to the next video in this tutorial series. I'll be assuming that you've already watched the previous episode, so if you haven't already, I'd recommend checking that out. In this episode, we'll work with the Builder tool and introduce the basic concepts of making a construction. So first, let's start by spawning and manipulating a part. We already have the Builder tool selected, so we can open up the tool UI and spawn a part by clicking on it there. And initially it will be selected. If we want to deselect it, we can click the left mouse button. And to reselect it, just highlight it and click again. Now, notice in the top left of the screen you'll see all of the operations that are currently available, along with the keys and mouse buttons that are bound to them. So keep an eye out for that as we go through this tutorial. While you have something selected, you can move it around. You can hold down left shift and move the mouse to translate it. Hold down the right mouse button and move the mouse to rotate around the horizontal and vertical axes. Hold down left shift and the right mouse button to rotate around alternate axes. And if you hold down left alt and move the mouse, you can translate in and out like that, or you can use the mouse wheel to do the same thing. In the previous episode, we saw that we could use the construction UI to freeze and unfreeze a construction. But we can also do the same thing if we highlight it, hold down left shift and left click, like that. You can also freeze a construction while you have it selected, again by holding left shift and clicking the left mouse button, which means you can freeze it in mid-air, which can be useful while you're building. Also in the previous episode we saw we could use the construction UI to delete a construction. But in this case, this one's just made out of a single part, which means we can highlight it and hold the right mouse button to do the same thing. Okay, next let's have a look at alignment and attachment. So if we spawn this part and freeze it, and spawn another one. To align two parts together, you just highlight a frozen part while you have another one selected. You can rotate and translate in place while aligning, and to attach the parts together, left click. To detach a part, you can highlight it and hold down the right mouse button. So we can position it somewhere else and attach it again with the left mouse button. If I unfreeze the construction, you can see that the parts are attached together and they move as one. So let's attach some more parts. Now we've already seen that we can detach a part by highlighting it and holding down the right mouse button, but we can also delete individual attachments. So we can highlight one of those, hold the right mouse button and delete it. In this case, this part is still attached to the rest by this attachment here. So to detach it fully, we also need to delete this attachment. Let's try deleting some other attachments. We've now split the construction into two sub-constructions, and we can attach them in a different place like that. But let's put it back the way it was. And at this point, I just want to point out a couple of advanced alignment tricks that you can try. By default, when aligning two parts together, it will align to the front face of the highlighted part. But by using the mouse wheel, we can toggle between front and back face alignment. And you can see that reflected in the indicator in the top left of the screen as I toggle between those as well. Also, while aligning two parts together, you can hold down left shift and click the left mouse button to freeze it in place. And this can be useful for checking positioning without actually committing to attachment. Next, let's have a look at duplication. So far, to spawn a part, we've gone into the Builder tool UI every time. But if you want to spawn a part that's already in the scene, you can do this more quickly by highlighting it, holding down left alt and left clicking, which will create a duplicate like that. Let's do that again. Now also, while aligning, you can hold down left alt and left click, which will attach the parts together and create a duplicate. Like that. And that can be useful for quickly attaching multiple parts of the same type over and over again. Now we can also duplicate an entire construction using the construction UI. And again, if we hold down left Alt and left click while aligning, we can rapidly create duplicates like that, which can be useful for creating larger constructions. So far, all the parts we've been dealing with have been all the same size, so how do we create parts of different sizes? We need to have a look at part resizing. If you look in the tool UI, you'll see that some parts have this plus minus icon in the top corner. Not all of them, but some of them do. And these ones are parts that are resizable. So if we spawn this plate here, if we hold down left shift, we can translate it as we've already seen, but we can also use A and D and W and S to resize it along the horizontal and vertical axes. And if you look in the bottom right corner, you'll see the part name, and this will reflect the current size of the part in that name, so you can see what size it is in units. Let's try resizing a beam as well. Now notice I can resize while aligning, so I can get the positioning and relative size exactly where I want it. Okay, so let's say I attach a part and I'm not happy with the size. I want to change it. Currently the only way to do this is to detach it and resize it like that. Okay, so the last thing to look at is how do we save a construction that we've already built. So we can open the construction UI and click Save Construction and give it a name and a description. We can also label it with some tags, but we'll look at that in future videos. For now, let's just save it. And if we go into the Builder Tool UI and under the Constructions tab, we'll see our Save Construction. And we can spawn it from there. Also note that a quicker way of spawning a construction, rather than selecting it and clicking load, you can just double click it as well. Okay, so we've created a bunch of plastic tables. Not very exciting, I know, but in future videos we'll move on to something a bit more interesting. For now, that's it, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.